Basically, I'm going to assess this debate in two major clashes. First of all, I'm going to talk upon the area of my rebuttals when it will concern if ASEAN here can or cannot be able to have that common currency, and will it actually bring benefits to them. And second of all, I'm going to explain upon will ASEAN, when having the common currency, actually create benefits or only more harms to the countries itself. So I'm going to move on to my first point of rebuttal. Ladies and gentlemen, basically some proposition here are saying that ASEAN here are able to actually have a common currency. They're given time of 10 years for that country to actually develop here. Well, first of all, we see here, ASEAN here has been standing for more than 3 decades of building a body here. But do we actually see any good sides of the economic in those countries of Asia? Well, basically, in more than 3 decades, the economy of each country has been fluctuating, developing, and have been in different levels here, ladies and gentlemen. So when they're saying here, we're going to give you 10 years, they're actually giving you no hope or no promises for those 10 countries to actually act here, ladies and gentlemen. We say here, we're not being pessimists, but we're being realistic. We're looking at the conditions of those countries in Asia itself. When they're saying here that even in developing countries, in the European nation here, they're still able to change their currency. But we see here that Europe has changed their currency in 1999, where most of those countries are actually developed and on the same level. That makes it justifiable for those countries to actually change themselves. But when you're looking at Asian here, when you're looking at those 9 or 11 countries here, where nearly not even one of them is actually a developed countries here, you can't actually see a promising development to whether they're actually able to create that common currency or not, ladies and gentlemen. Because here, when they're saying here, when you are developing countries here, when you are together forever, you can actually help other countries out there. Well, let's see here, if all countries here are actually developing and busy concerning on their economy, how do you expect them to actually help other countries around them, help other countries of Asia to actually help them to develop and to create this kind of common currency in the future, ladies and gentlemen? We believe here we're not being naive, ladies and gentlemen. We see what is happening in Asia. We see what is really occurring in these countries, and we believe that this common currency cannot happen because basically we're not ready to actually develop even if you give that 10 years. Before I continue on, yes, sir.
We give them 10 years to adopt, not to develop itself. We give them 10 years to adopt, not to develop.
Well, let me ask a question. What's the difference between adapting and actually developing here, ladies and gentlemen? Basically, when you're actually adapting yourself, you're trying to go easy on the condition, and that's basically the same as developing here, ladies and gentlemen. And even if they mean by adapting when you actually change the currency in the first place, that will only bring more harms towards the society, where the society here are actually confused on how they're going to actually accept the fact that their country is having a new currency here. So because of that, we believe here basically Asian cannot be able to use that common currency, therefore it doesn't stand. I'm going to move on to my second point of rebuttal about even if, let's say, Asian has this common currency, will it actually bring benefits to Asian or not? Ladies and gentlemen, they're saying here with the same currency, it will create these countries of Asian to be developed. Well, we ask here, how are these countries of Asian going to be developed when they're actually with different currencies, they're actually still developing? How can you assure when you change that one currency and it's the same as other countries in your group, it will actually create you to be developed, ladies and gentlemen? That further explanation haven't been explained to side affirmative. But what we believe here that these countries will not be able to develop with the same currency, because here when you're talking about changing currency, you're not only changing the currency of a country here, but you're also affecting the society inside the country, where the society actually has to take the fact that they have to live with a new currency here. take a look at Indonesia. When you're talking about Indonesia, you're not just talking about Jakarta, where a government say, hey, you have a new currency, you'll be able to actually live with that new currency. Even those kinds of modern people are actually hard to take the fact. But let's take a look at developing countries in Asia here. When you're talking about 9 other countries who are still developing, you actually have society here who don't even understand what is money. You actually have society here who is actually hard to take the fact that when you have a new currency, it's hard for them to use and to go shopping in our landings here. So when you're saying the point of develop here, when you're concerning on the country, hard to adapt, hard to when they have to change the value of their bank, when they have to change the value of everything in their country, it does not only affect the country to develop, but also the society here, ladies and gentlemen. And when the society here are actually hard to adapt to using that kind of country, we believe it won't actually create any welfare development in those countries of Asia itself. So because of their point of how this common currency will actually create development in these countries, we believe here it will not happen due to the case of those of the country itself being hard to adapt with the new value of their currency, and also how this affects the society being able to live with the new currency in their life. So because of that, we believe that the point of development in beneficial effects upon this motion will not work. Second of all, still upon if common currency will create benefits to develop to Asia itself. They're saying here that if you have the same currency, it will actually be easy for you to fix a crisis in your economic life. Well, let's take a look at Europe. With Europe actually being a developed country, with Europe actually being able to reach their dreams and having the same currency, they still fell with the crisis that happened in Europe. Even with the help of a giant, of Germany, it still takes a long time for them to actually cope from the crisis itself. Let's take a look. What will happen to Asia where they don't even have a giant to actually help them overcome the crisis here? When you're talking about Singapore here, it's actually an industrial country, not developed yet. And even if they all go to crisis here, it doesn't mean that Singapore can actually overcome all the crises in the countries of Asia itself. Because when we're talking about common currency, when that currency falls down in one country, it will affect all the countries around it, because basically they're using the same currency. That is what happened in Europe, and we do not want that to happen to Asia itself. Ladies and gentlemen, here we are justifying countries of Asia to actually develop on their own side and to fix their problem itself. We're not being greedy here, ladies and gentlemen. We're being independent, and we're actually doing it for a good cause to avoid the effects in the future. And ladies and gentlemen, they're saying here that this will actually make transaction more easier. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we believe here in Asia there's already something called free trade, and the different prices actually drags those countries wanting to still do free trade, and even with the potential rates, developing countries in Asia could still develop. So because of that, we believe here this motion fails. Thank you.